Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode 7 of Stoked, our podcast all about Star Trek Online. And with me is Jeremy.
That's me.
And Brian is out saving the world today, so he is unable to join us.
We wish him Godspeed.
We do. And to make things like a little bit of salt in the wound for Brian's absence, we've lined up a pretty awesome show. Coming up in today's episode of Stoked, we've got some highlights from the latest press blitz that the Cryptic has been doing, the makers of Star Trek Online. A few things that we've picked out that we want to go over with you guys. And of course, there's been a couple of videos that have come out this week that we've got to talk about. The history of Star Trek, the kind of video series the Cryptic will be putting out to fill the gaps between when we saw Nemesis and where the Star Trek universe in STO takes place.
Right.
And then we've got new pre-order details for those of you that want to get your hands on STO as soon as possible. There's a few incentives that some of the different retailers are now carrying for your pre-order. And then last but not least, I think we'll probably cap off the show with a history of how Cryptic acquired the rights to Star Trek Online. For the people that don't know the backstory, this could be kind of an interesting background and a few new details.
Give you a little insight into the actual studio putting out this awesome game we all want to play.
So getting off, why don't we got to, jumping off here, we've got to start with the videos that came out, because this is really some big news, right?
Yeah, I think we would be doing the fans a disservice by not discussing
And we are all about services. So there's just a couple of things. This show sounds a little weird. Whoa.
Yeah, we just flickered.
Just right there. It's very windy here in Washington right now, and we almost just lost power. So if the show seems a little disjointed at some point, it's probably we lost power, then the power came back, and we continued the show. We almost just lost it right then there as I was saying that. And then the second possibility is there could be a huge spider somewhere in here. I killed one earlier this week. It was monstrous, you guys. It's
because when it rains, a lot of them that have been living like in the wet spots under the house, they come inside.
And we are in a garage converted to a studio.
Yeah.
And so
it's high tech.
It is high tech, and it's also a favorite spot of spiders. So if I run out of the room...
It's also where Chris keeps the beer fridge, though.
That's true. If I run out of the room like a screaming girl, that's not a power outage. That's just a huge spider we've seen. So just as a warning to everybody.
I'll be right behind him. Don't worry.
All right, so let's talk about 2 videos that came out, and we've opted to play it safe. We're not going to play them in the show because we're not sure about copyright violation.
Yeah, we don't want to get anybody mad at us.
Right. So what we're going to do is you can find it over at our show notes over at jupiterbroadcasting.com. There's 2 different videos we're going to link to. The first one I want to talk about it came out first. It is the timeline video part 1.
This is basically a video journal version of the Path to 2409 articles that they've been putting on their website, which are not complete. I'm really hoping that they start pushing those out because I want to know more about the history, and that's why this video is also really...
And I'd love to buy a
really interesting
a comic book version of that or something. I'd love to sit down in one single spot and read it. I guess I could just print it all, but that just seems, I don't know, like I'm killing trees, even though it'd be the same thing. In fact, on a much smaller scale, I'd probably be saving a lot of
pictures.
Trees. Right. So in this video, they cover a couple of things that sort of fill in the political details of the different major players in the Star Trek universe.
Do you want to just kind of give it a quick step-by-step?
Yeah. So I'd say start off, they feature on the Romulans, right?
Right. Well, because the last thing that we saw in the Star Trek universe in this prime timeline where STO is going to take place was the power struggle between the Romulans and the Remans led by Praetor Shinzon.
It's pretty much a big part of Nemesis.
Yeah, pretty much all of Nemesis.
And so now they're saying, the Romulans and the Remans remain kind of at each other. They're sort of going into a civil war period.
That's pretty much what it is.
And that sort of leaves the Romulans in a weakened state. And the Klingons, being the opportunistic kind of guys that they are, decide they're going to start taking territory from the Romulans while they have this distraction.
Right. The first system that they take back from Romulan space is the Khitomer system.
Which is where the Khitomer Accord came from, which is the peace treaty between the Klingons and the Federation.
And I think the Romulans were involved as well.
Yeah. That also leads to the Klingons obviously now are involved with the Romulans, and so they're distracted. Yeah. And so the Gorn take advantage of this opportunity. Now, you remember the Gorn. That's the big green lizard guy that Captain Kirk fought on the... Yeah. Well, the Gorn, the Gorn are in Star Trek Online, and they are picking away at the Klingons. So the Klingons find themselves with 2 battles. One
war on
with the
2
Romulans.
fronts, basically.
Yep.
The Gorn hegemony?
Yeah, hegemony.
That's a neat word.
Yeah.
Yeah, hegemony. That's your word for the day.
There you have it. And so
they look cool in the game. They're much more humanoid. It's kind of like a realistic version of the one that Kirk fought.
Did you ever see the Enterprise version?
Yeah, it wasn't the dinosaur-looking lizard man from the Enterprise.
It was more. It looks more like the original but just
well done,
modernized and a little more animated. So they didn't go as far as Enterprise did, which I think I think they found I think they found a good balance there.
Absolutely.
So these guys are now picking away at the Klingons. So the Klingons get testy, and of course, they become as they take more territory from the Romulans, they start to become more of a threat to the Federation. So the Federation has to start taking a serious look at them.
And it's not just the Gorn. Later on, the Nausicaans join the Gorn hegemony in that front of the battle as well.
Oh, snap. Really?
Yeah.
So what else do we know from this timeline video? Is that pretty much all they've covered so far? It's a pretty good video with some nice visuals, so if you haven't seen it, go to our show notes and check it out.
Yeah, and that takes us, if I remember right, up to 2391 or 2392.
Yeah, okay.
So there's obviously going to be more videos as long as they can see this through.
It's a cool way for them to do it, and it gives you what the big points are from those the write-ups they've done on their blog.
Yeah.
The ones on their blog contain a lot more detail.
Tons more info.
So they're worth a read.
In fact, in these specific years, there's information about B4, the data clone. There's
in the blog post.
Yeah, on the blog posts on their website. There's information about I think Jean-Luc Picard has taken I think he's an ambassador to Vulcan at this point already.
Oh, is he? So they've worked in. So that is story from
All Good Things.
The Star Trek Countdown comic book has Picard as the comic they put out before the movie. That kind of
with the red matter.
Yeah, in that Picard is the Vulcan ambassador because of his experience with Spock's father when they did a mind meld.
Yeah,
he kind of had a soft spot for the Vulcans from that point forward. So he.
They also cover a bunch of little details like. All of the Enterprise crew has moved on. Riker's on the Titan, Beverly's on the Pasteur, and Geordi has withdrawn temporarily from Starfleet to work on private projects, building his own starship, which is the Jellyfish, and working on B4.
The Jellyfish from the movie that Spock flies through the black hole in.
Right.
So the timeline video will get you the core things that you need to know. All of the details though are in those blog posts.
Yeah. Check them out, especially if you're the type of person that's wondering when you're playing this game, are you going to be running into Picard and Riker and all these other old people? Are you going to be able to interact with them? Yeah. Well, you'll be able to see from these posts kind of the direction that Cryptic's going with them. Obviously, they're not up to 2409 yet.
What I take away from it is that they do things, they're setting things up in the universe that seem like logical evolutions of the universe. So it seems like they actually have a pretty good understanding of Star Trek and the dynamics of all the different characters and races. I mean, the whole idea of extending the Romulan Reman into a full-fledged civil war, awesome. The whole idea of the Gorn going after the Klingon makes sense because there's a lot of parallels there, so you could see how the Klingons would be a threat to the Gorn. And they are taking things in a direction that seem like a very logical progression if you were to watch something over the span of a next Star Trek series.
And doing it in a year-by-year blog post really helps with that because everyone will build on the one before it, rather than just skipping 30 years and saying, this is where this person is now, and then having to fill in the gaps. I think this is going to work much better.
Yeah, it's a cool way to do it. I really like and respect.
It's more like reading a comic book.
They're treating the material with a lot of respect.
Absolutely.
So that's very cool.
We'll get back to actually that a little bit when we talk later on about the history of Cryptic. There's some good info about how they feel about the Star Trek. So
now the other video that came out this week was one of their first official trailers. Cryptic partnered up with IGN, and I don't know who exactly flit the bill, but that's where you can find us over IGN, and we'll link to that. And it's one of the first trailers we're going to get for STO, and it's from the perspective of Klingons.
Right.
Interestingly enough, too, that we talked about last week, Klingons are going to be locked until you get to a certain point in the game.
I almost feel like they released those two bits of information back to back on purpose. Because when they release the information about Klingons,
Klingons are.
I hate this game. A bunch of table flipping. But
then they do a trailer with the feature Klingons.
Exactly.
Yeah, it is interesting timing, and it's from the perspective of Klingons and what their rationale is for essentially bringing the fight back to the Federation. Yeah. Some great looking gameplay footage in there. Even stuff that is this is in the beginning. A little disclaimer that it's pre-beta footage.
Mm-hmm. Now, there's a lot of concern actually about the ships move a little jerky in space. There's actually a post on the forums by one of the devs that cleared up some of that. He says that a lot of the footage that they're still using in current publicity shots is from an older version of the internal build where they had problems with their video recorder, making the movements of the ships look jerky.
Oh, interesting. It was dropping frames.
I don't know if you remember it at PAX, but they They didn't look that jerky.
No.
Even our footage that you can find on YouTube. There's a shot with a bunch of bird of prey swooping in on Chris's unsuspecting little Miranda, and they don't look jerky. They're flying nice and smooth. It looks great. Yeah. So, I think that the concerns over the jerkiness are I think that was just an engine incompatibility.
All those concerns about jerkiness are just turkiness.
Well said.
Thank you. So
this is why I hang out with you.
So did you glean anything from this trailer, or is it just interesting from a perspective that that's their marketing?
I gleaned that they're not spending a whole lot of money on voice talent.
Yeah, I did glean that too.
They could have at least gotten the dude some fake teeth.
I really, really like the look of the battle scenes.
Yeah.
The explosions, the way the phaser mechanics work. I'm really digging all of that. It's interesting, too, to see that they featured a little tiny glimpse of ground play, but it was almost all exclusively in-space gameplay. So they're obviously trying to play that up, too, which is good because that's what a lot of us are looking forward to.
There's also some cinematic elements, so don't think that everything you saw in the shot was going to be gameplay. Yeah. Some of it was cut scenes, you might call them. Right at the beginning when they're showing a picture of the bridge. A little misleading, to be honest.
Because as far as we know, we're not going to be standing around in the bridge like that.
Exactly.
Yeah. Not yet, at least.
There's my little poo-poo on that.
Maybe that'll be like a expansion
One thing I'm
pack.
really hoping that this is a hint at is also that maybe there will be two separate box arts, or maybe a two-sided box for the game that has the Starfleet logo on one side
and the Klingon on the other.
Yeah.
Oh, that'd be cool.
I think that'd be pretty cool.
That'd be cool. Why don't we talk about some of the pre-order details that you came across?
That you get with that box?
Yeah. So what do we know? So we've talked a little bit about how we're a little suspicious of GameSpot's or GameStop's.
GameStop.
How they're throwing things in there that Cryptic hasn't really confirmed that they can do yet.
Right.
And they have like a $70 one, and they have like $100 and something one that's like the super fancy one that comes with extra stuff.
Collector's edition.
They're a little vague on the contents of it because they don't know themselves. They just want to have a more expensive one.
Now, the trouble with putting any of this out there is that we haven't gotten any confirmation from Cryptic. I think that's flat out pretty disappointing that we haven't gotten any news from Cryptic.
Like I said earlier, we haven't got a lot of. I mean, the Star Trek Blu-ray. Star Trek, the original series Blu-rays that are coming with Star Trek Online content. But
yeah, at least that was confirmed, though.
Oh, was it?
We did have a forum note on that, just saying that it was a.
What about the stuff that? So Amazon is going to be shipping. If you pre-order, you get a Borg
bridge officer.
Now that's not confirmed either.
Borgboff. No, that has not been confirmed.
But it seems like that's pretty specific detail.
It absolutely is. Now,
so there must be either somebody at Paramount or somebody at Atari that's saying you're going to get this.
It's probably public relations at Atari. Working on the publishing side of things.
Yeah. I mean, as for Cryptic standpoint, is it that much more work? I mean,
no. And when you get right down to it, Cryptic is just making a game. Then they're giving it to Atari to handle with distribution and publishing.
Right. Yeah,
and
it's a distribution matter.
Right. So I guess I
dynamic
cut them a little slack on that, but still, they did so good with Champions Online about getting the information directly to their fans, as soon as it was available. And it seems like for Star Trek Online, maybe they're overwhelmed because of this whole press blitz that's going on.
And and with Champions, it's a little bit more of a direct channel. They're more directly involved with Champions, whereas with Star Trek Online, there's Paramount and CBS.
There's been a lot of headaches. It seems like a lot of headaches behind the scenes between trying to get things confirmed on the Paramount side. I mean,
it's just such a valued property that so many people have.
And anything that they want to do to push the game to publicize it or anything like that, it kind of has to go through the big boys and get approval.
I like the idea of it. I think it'd be kind of cool to get a drone on my bridge. And if I'm going to pre-order anyways.
I don't. Maybe if it's like a 7 of 9 drone, and I don't mean just a sexy chick in a tight outfit. I mean like maybe I kind of do, but I mean like just the underplayed implants. But if they're going to be like, gray skin and black implants and tubes.
It'd be a little out of place.
A little out of place.
Yeah, I can see that. I'd want to see
a lot.
Like a saved Borg, you mean? Like a refugee of the collective?
Right.
Yeah, a 7 of 9 type. And that's what I pictured when you said it.
Yeah, I'm picturing that since it's likely to only be a cosmetic thing, they're probably going to go all out with the cosmetics.
It would be kind of cool to do a full-fledged Borg, but with a uniform over like parts. So like, I don't know. You
a cybernetic arm and tubes on their head, but just a uniform over the rest of it. Yeah. That might be kind of cool.
Anyways, if you want to pre-order it, I'll link to our Amazon affiliate where we get where you help us out by pre-ordering, and it doesn't cost you any more. If you do want to pre-order from Amazon, you can find the link over in our show notes.
That's right.
Yeah. So the pre-order stuff, I'm going to do it anyway, so I might as well get something out of it, I think. So let's cover some of the latest press blitzy stuff that we thought was interesting, that Cryptic's really, really, really taking it out there and trying to get the word out about Star Trek Online.
All right.
To me, this says beta's coming up soon. They're really trying to get it in people's minds. The buzz on Twitter is going crazy. It's every day I'm monitoring mentions of STO and Star Trek Online, and every day it's just more and more traffic. Tons of sites are linking to stuff.
And Zink just said the other day that he did just like 3 interviews in a single day for more websites recently.
Yeah.
So he's going to be everywhere.
So what's a couple of things that have jumped out in this press blitz that you found interesting? Is there anything in particular that you're like, oh, that's a little tidbit?
There was an interview at Older Gamer with Al Rivera. He's the lead designer over at STO.
Okay.
A few little things. Most of this stuff is just telling us more about the game that we already know. But every time they ask a question, there's these little tidbits that sometimes sneak in. And us that have already been following it like to hear these things. So one thing is from the Klingon point of view, the Vokuv? How do you pronounce that?
Which one?
The giant battle carrier.
Oh, I don't know.
Vokuv. It's actually going to have
Valcor?
Is that how you say it?
I don't know I don't know which one you're talking about.
It's actually going to have the capability of launching Bird of Preys as AI drones.
Oh, cool!
It's that big.
That's that's going to be something we could play if we're playing Klingon.
That's like a tier 4 Klingon ship.
That's kind of cool. That almost would make me want to have a Klingon.
Yeah?
Yeah, almost. I do like the idea of I'm so big that birds of prey are like my little toy things that I send out.
Yeah.
That does sound cool.
So we already knew that it was going to launch fighters, but full-blown starships.
I did not know that.
Bam.
That's going to look cool.
He also confirmed with us that there's going to be no rolling or flipping of your starship. Basically, that everything's going to be
now, I should have mentioned, I did have a confirmation of that at PAX.
Yeah.
I asked specifically because I will be flipping my ship around like a tard if
they don't know how to drive.
That. Yeah, they got to put the training wheels on for somebody like me.
It's full 3D space. You can still get above people and things like that, but you can't flip your ship. But you can't roll.
Right, which is because of people like me.
Right.
Actually,
because Chris sucks
if I could master it though, I would do stuff like I would roll up on top of a guy, and be like down below, and then that'd be really cool.
And fire at their top shields, dorsal shields.
Yeah, you bet, because they would have transferred power to their forward shields because that's where we've been fighting. But then I just flipped around and got them where they didn't have all their shield strength. But
did we call that the Fisher maneuver?
Right.
Even though he can't do it.
Even though I'd never do it. I'd just constantly be flipping and screwing up, so it's probably a good thing they don't have it.
What's Gritz doing?
I can barely get follow to work most of the time. All right, what else you got on that?
He gave us a little more information about the Genesis engine. Basically, he just talked it up. But
now, the Genesis engine is their engine where they say, like, if you beam down to a planet, it's going to generate content on the fly.
That's what they've led us to believe before. Now, this is just speculation on my part, but this whole interview with Al Rivera, when he talked about the Genesis engine, he was using a lot of past tense, like things that have been generated by the Genesis engine or things that we've used the Genesis engine to make. So he used a lot of older terms. It sounds like it's almost might just be a back-end technology.
Like they used it to build content?
Yeah, that it's a tool that their developers use to randomly generate things, and then they go in and fine-tune it and then release it and push it out to us.
I wonder, though, I got the sense in one of the interviews that was done a while ago that Cryptic was worried about people being concerned that this engine was going to generate a bunch of boring static content. And so I think they're trying to downplay the generated content because I think they came out and it sounded awesome, so they talked about it. Mm-hmm. And then a few people went, well, wait a minute, is it just going to be like boring, sterile crap that it generates? And so then they've pulled back from
3 hallways and 5 rooms.
I think so. I think that they're downplaying it now.
Okay. You think that maybe they're not entirely comfortable with exactly what its capabilities are,
or that they're worried other people are, so they think it's one of their
maybe.
Yeah.
But to be honest, that's one of the things that I'm most excited about. I mean, when you're talking about the Star Trek universe, you're supposed to have infinite explorability, and you want to be able to go out.
I think it's great too, as long as it's done right. But yeah, no, they seem to actively be downplaying it in the interview that I heard. And
maybe that's possible. That's entirely possible.
All right, what else you got? What else do you got?
The only other thing that he mentioned is that they will have a PvP challenge system in STO. And this sounds very similar to Champions Online.
The hero
games.
Mm-hmm.
What basically it is a separate, it's almost like a separate entire side of the game where you just click a button and put yourself in a queue, and then you can go and do your missions. And then when it's your turn to play, it just pops up with a little thing and says, "Are you ready to play?" And you click yes, and you're teleported away to this new zone.
It's a cool idea, especially if you're into PvP, but it's just not anything. It's not really been my thing.
Yeah, I'm not excited about that at all. What I'm excited about for PvP is actual encounters in the world. So like running into a couple other players in their Klingon ships or stuff like that.
That's gone badly for me in World of Warcraft a few times.
Yeah, it usually does for me as well. But still, it'd be more exciting.
If I'm doing the ambushing, it's probably better. But if I get ambushed, I generally never really recover.
Yeah.
So if I'm the aggressor...
It's a frequent thing in MMOs across the board. Whoever gets the first shot is usually the winner.
Yeah. And
unless your PvP system is extremely deep and well-balanced.
Right.
Which is not common.
I thought we should also maybe give a quick mention. I don't know, was there anything else on the press stuff?
That's
the main...
That's it from that one.
Right.
What were you saying?
Well, I just wanted to mention the day this episode comes out, which is on Tuesdays, there's going to be a dev chat. So
that morning.
That morning. So we obviously won't be able to include it in this week's show.
Even though you'll be watching this after
it already happened.
The dev chat.
Right.
We're going to sound
travel.
like old. You know what? A lot of people in the podcast community, though, don't watch things for a whole month.
There you have it.
So,
and then we'll have it, although next episode
absolutely.
8.
Episode 8 will have dev chat details from the dev chat October 20th.
Yeah.
If you, I guess I don't need to tell them when it is.
Now, do you know...
It was this morning. You missed it.
The PvP stuff, do you any mention if it's ground combat or space combat?
It seems to be all space combat.
That could be cool.
Well, yeah, that's what I'm saying.
That could be
even
different.
if I'm getting my butt handed to me, space combat looks fun.
Yeah, it does. So, I mean, that would be... PvP in space does sound really neat, actually.
It does.
Yeah.
I don't know how they would manage to implement ground combat PvP when you're trying to maneuver yourself and 4 or 5 of your bridge crew against some dude and 4 or 5 of his.
The bridge crew would have to fight each other, and then it'd just be the 2 players.
You versus the player?
Yeah, right? I would think so.
But then if you kill the other player, then you got to kill his bridge crew.
Yeah. You do have to.
Especially if they're Bajorans.
The dev chat that will be airing the same day is more player progression stuff, right?
Right.
So if there's any highlights in there, we'll cover them. The player progression stuff's been played out kind of a bit, though. I mean, that's what the topic has been the last few times.
Twice.
It definitely seems to be an area that people are interested in. And I think we're kind of getting to the point where I think we've got a pretty good handle on it.
Yeah.
But maybe what we'll do next episode is we'll kind of accumulate all of the information we have regarding player progression.
Yeah, that'll
kind
be
of
great.
do a once-over.
That's what we'll do.
All right. So now, do you want to move on from the press stuff, or is there anything else in the press stuff you wanted to cover?
Just the VentureBeat. Did you want to talk about? Oh, we'll get to that later.
Yeah. Well, why don't we move right into that? It's a good.
Sure.
That's a good segue into the VentureBeat. So VentureBeat is a.
It's a blog.
It's a blog that went to on site at the Cryptic Studios offices.
That's right.
And they have some interesting. We'll link to it, and if you're watching the video version, I'm showing you pictures right now. Hopefully, you get to see a few inside shots of the Cryptic offices, including people working massive hours
and people playing foosball.
Right. They're a bunch of developers. Now, there's a few things that you really liked that you thought some interesting backstory that we've never heard before.
Yeah, well, I didn't know this. I guess it's kind of common knowledge, but Cryptic was originally on board to do the Marvel MMO.
Yeah.
The Marvel Universe, I think it was called. Which, oh man, I would have loved to play that.
I know it, huh?
But Marvel, because of legal issues, probably because of their pending sale with Disney that just went through recently.
I don't know. You think they've been waiting that long?
Possible.
'Cause that was a couple of years ago.
Well, maybe
you
not.
You never know. I mean, sometimes those things take a long time, but
for one reason or another, Marvel pulled out of the deal.
And Marvel, it's better now, but back then, didn't even own the rights to all of their stuff.
They still don't.
Yeah, but I mean, they're better off now than they were back then.
Yeah, they were. They are.
And so there was probably some licensing issues, and that's always an issue with these games. But
yeah,
that's where, so Cryptic had spun their wheels trying to get that going.
Well, Cryptic was already working on they'd finished their engine, basically, and were working on content for Marvel Universe, and then all of a sudden Marvel backed out, so they were left with this superhero engine.
So they created City of Heroes.
No, that was... City of Heroes was before. The Cryptic engine is basically a new revamp.
So this is where
evolution.
Champions has
That's
grown
where
out of.
Champions came from. They went and talked to the guys that did the Hero System games and got them on board and plugged their IP into the existing Marvel Universe engine. They became the Cryptic engine.
And the chat room is saying that Iron Deadpool in the chat room is saying that there is still a Marvel Universe game is still in development, but
yeah, it's with another developer now.
Yeah, and I don't think it's the same engine or anything like that.
So then it came up a little while later after they were already working on Champions Online that the Star Trek IP for MMOs was becoming available, and Cryptic leapt at this opportunity.
And at this point in time, it was still owned by Perpetual Motion, right?
It had just dropped away from Perpetual Entertainment.
Oh, okay. So
because
they
went under.
So they didn't take it directly from Perpetual. They went to Paramount and
well, it was basically
when
Perpetual went under Paramount
received it back, got it back.
Took everything that Perpetual had done.
Right. Which sounds like was not a lot of usable stuff.
Was not. They've been basically saying on this interview that they scrapped it. They looked at it and they decided that they were better off starting on their own, starting from scratch. So the way that they won Paramount over was they took 5 of their developers. This gives you a clue into just how good the guys at Cryptic are. They took 5 of their developers, and only over the course of only 5 weeks, they had working code, working content enough to show a demo to the people at Paramount to win them over and basically say,
we can do it.
We got it.
Here's the proof. Yeah. We can do it. We've already done some of it. Look what we could do in 5 weeks. Imagine if you gave us a year or 2.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what happened.
The rest is
future
history.
And they were saying that, and they didn't really, they didn't make too much of a big deal about it at Cryptic in-house. And then when they announced it in-house, not to the public, they just said, hey, officially, looks like we got the IP for Star Trek. Right? And they said that they had developers lining up outside management store asking to be transferred to that
with
project.
like pictures of themselves at old Star Trek conventions.
Yeah. I love the idea of like all of a sudden all the developers are scrambling. Yeah. They're going to get in their photo libraries and they're sending them the pictures and emails and stuff.
Lining up with Vulcan
I'm a Star Trek fan. Look, I'm legitimate. So there was just a huge response inside Cryptic, ton of energy, and you can tell it comes out somehow.
Yeah.
There's just through the communications of the different people from the company, like it seeps through. Like you can tell when a company's jazzed about a product and when they're just talking.
Everybody that you see talking about, if you follow them on Twitter, if they post on the forums, if they respond to anything, I mean, there's Cryptic staff that will come into the forums and argue with you over the semantics that only Trekkies care about. The size of the ships and the crew complements and things like that. And, if they were just programmers doing their job, they wouldn't care. They wouldn't stop by. They wouldn't be so excited about this game that hasn't even gotten to beta that they're twittering about it.
It shows in their respect of the historical content, in the respectful, very smart, very believable way that they're evolving the content for the time frame that the game takes place. It shows the energy level shows in just all aspects of it. And I think that means that not only are we going to see a pretty solid game at launch, but we're going to see a ton of commitment in continuing to improve the game over time.
Improving the game over time is another thing that they mentioned. I can't remember actually if it was in the VentureBeat article or if it was in the older Gamer article, but they had said that Cryptic has always tried to subscribe to a model of rolling out new content or expansions, new gameplay every 3 to 4 months.
That's a kind of an accepted, ever evolving game through patching and then through major expansions. That's kind of an accepted MMO practice. I mean, how often is it once a year where World of Warcraft does an expansion?
It's about once a year now, but there were some big gaps in content. The first major expansion, I don't think came out until a full 2 years after the game was underway. Now, that means that during that entire time, the biggest thing that they ever rolled out was a new dungeon. 2 years is a long time for people to be waiting for new levels and new skills and all that stuff.
Yeah.
So if Cryptic is subscribing themselves, is promising themselves that they'll be able to do that kind of level of content rollouts every 3 to 4 months,
it's a big deal.
That's a pretty big promise to make, first of all.
How can they make that commitment? They
better know what they're doing.
Yeah.
There's already been talk of
They must already have plans.
There's already been talk of additional factions being added, the Romulans, maybe the Remans, although I think they kind of got stomped in the Civil War. We might see that later on down in the timeline. And who else was the Romulans? Oh, the Bony Necks.
The Cardassians.
That's the one. Bony Necks.
The Bajoran haters. Our fellow Bajoran haters. Yeah. Yeah.
Maybe even the Dominion.
That's what I was going to say. The other thing we've heard of is the Dominion. And changelings could be crazy.
Changelings could be game breaking.
Changelings could be game breaking. So it's you
just get 4 or 5 changelings together and they become a ship, right?
Right. They can fly through space. Did you know that? Did you see that episode of DS9 where Odo can fly through space? No. Odo's hanging with a dude and he can fly through space.
Oh, hanging with a dude.
Yeah. All right. Well, so the main thing to take away from that is that it sounds like it's not just a launch and then forget it. They have plans to continue to back it up. So
yeah.
All right.
Absolutely.
Was there anything else we want to cover in this episode?
I think it's a short episode. Actually, yes, there is something else. We skipped right over it here.
Okay, go for it.
There's been a couple new pages at StarTrekOnline.com. If you don't go there on a regular basis, you need to check out some of these, especially if you're interested in the player progression and a little bit more information about your ships. They have released a page that's an overview of bridge officer station modifications. This is basically your ship's equipment. Mm-hmm. This is where you will equip things like improved scanners, improved photon torpedo heads, and armor, and things like that to turn your ship more specifically into what you want it to be. The other page is player progression, which is basically a recap of everything we've told you here, everything that's gone in the IRC.
Do we have links to those?
I will get them to you. We'll put them in the show notes. Absolutely.
But the summary pages are super helpful.
Yeah, they are.
Super helpful.
It basically breaks down so you don't have to dig through the forums. You don't have to listen to us. You can just read it right there on their website. Right. Curse them.
Yeah, that's all right. They're taking our jobs away. We just got to keep coming up with something else. All right. Well, somebody's got to watch The Watchmen.
That's
us. Wait.
Oh, one more thing I want to mention
that.
That's from last episode. I am unfortunately wrong. I'm not playing beta yet. I had made the gross...
Oh, you did? That's right. You said you think you'd be playing it by this episode.
It feels that close. It really does.
I know. It does feel like it's on our...
So next episode.
You think so? Do you think so?
I'll just keep saying it.
I think I'm going to try to take... I'm ready to geek out when it comes out. I think I'm going to take a couple of days off work and just plant myself in front of the computer and just absorb. If nom the game. That's what I want to do.
If beta comes out, I want to say this to all the people that actually get into closed beta. Do your jobs. This is not just a play, no matter how much we want to play.
What if I just want to play?
Do your job.
Oh.
It doesn't matter if you just say, hey, this was spelled wrong. Just tell them something.
Well, I'm not the guy to work. I'm not the guy to correct them about their spelling.
No, you aren't. Not.
That's not my thing. But
this week on.
All right, I'll do a bug report if I have to.
One or two, one a day maybe.
All right.
1 hour if you can.
Oh, 1 hour?
Yeah, if you can. I know that's a lot of.
You think there's going to be that many bugs? Holy crap, dude.
No, just do the same one over and over again.
I gotcha. All right,
just send them the same bug report that says, why can't I be a Bajoran?
I hope we're playing by next episode, but I'm not going to hold my breath.
Yeah.
They got to do it when they're ready.
I know.
So.
But they seem so close to ready.
It does.
Oh, I just want to play this game.
I hear you.
Can we play the game now? Are we there yet?
We'll have to play Champions in the meantime.
Yes, we've
got details about our fleet that we're assembling for Star Trek Online over on our forum at
Jupiter Force.
JupiterColony.com. There's a section in there just for Stoked.
We fixed it.
We fixed the forum.
Chris fixed it.
I'm an awesome.
Yeah.
And you can go in there and give feedback for this episode in that Stoked forum or get details about our upcoming Jupiter Force fleet.
It's real easy to be a part of. You just have to be a fan of the show.
There you have it.
That's pretty much it.
So, okay. So we covered in that. Also, if you want to get a hold of us, give us any feedback, you can do that over at facebook.com/Jupiter Broadcasting. Or like I mentioned, in the forum is the place to do it.
That's right.
All right, everyone. Well, I think that wraps up episode 7 of Stoked.
Sure does.
Episode 8 will be out next Tuesday.